Politicians want their power back.
That's what they want to do, is take us backwards. This is why it is important for you to vote no on Proposition 50.
California voters established an independent commission led by citizens to stop rigged elections. Prop 50 cancels this historic reform, putting the politicians back in charge.
The Constitution does not start we the politicians, it starts with we the people.
Trust citizens, not politicians. No on 50.
Democracy. We got to protect it and we got to go and fight for it.
Hello, welcome to California First. I just play a video about no on Prop 50. Okay, right now while I'm waiting, maybe I should play one more time. Right.
The politicians want their power back.
That's what they want to do, is take us backwards. This is why it is important for you to vote no on Proposition 50.
California voters established an independent commission led by citizens to stop rigged elections. Prop 50 cancels this historic reform, putting the politicians back in charge.
The Constitution does not start we the politicians, it starts with we the people.
Trust citizens, not politicians. No on 50.
Democracy. We got to protect it and we got to go and fight for it.
Still try to get the viewers, get the notification. So take some time, please. Patient. Thank you very much. And today we have some history. If you see, let me show you the. Okay. On this bad job, we're going to listen to see what President say in the UN. Hey, it's very nice. It's very straightforward. It's no, just really telling UN the mistake they have made. Great leadership, okay? People doesn't like it. UN maybe doesn't like it. Too bad, because President Trump is telling the truth. And I bring out this video about his congressional testimony on 2005, because President Trump did mention about when he was beating for the renovation on the UN. So that's why I want to bring it out. And in the beginning, before everyone's here, today I have a thought about this, okay? See if you can see it. If you have a smaller screen, maybe you are. And when we are still moving Charlie Kirk, and I thought about this. As a father, I really mad because Charlie Kirk's father, Mr. Kirk, and also Tyler Robinson's father, okay, they both lost their son in same day because of the fake news, okay? And they did the fake news, and I still see people try to spread rumor. News still not coming out and condemn or repent about their wrongdoing, about them be spreading fake news. Those congressmen, congresswomen, the left thoughts, still doing their agenda. No, no, no contact. No repent. Yeah, they are so sick. They spread everything. So, as in father perspective, then I feel sorry for those their fathers. So maybe if you are Christian, you pray. Please pray for Charlie Kirk's parents and also Tyler Robinson's parents. It's very tough, very difficult. Although Tyler Robinson's still alive, okay, probably is going to go all the way to death penalty. Utah is going to go for death penalty, and I support death penalty. So this is the way, okay. But we got to let the fake news media know about what they did to the parents, to the future generation. This is the guy in Michigan.
Achieved the victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down. Achieved the victory. We haven't done.
What kind of people is it? How are they going to be? He's in Michigan. Where Michigan? Oh, I don't have his post. Oh, okay. He is in. I'm going to put in a comment. Dearborn. Is in Dearborn, Michigan. It's terrible. Yes, agree. Deport Muslim, because they want to destroy America. They are not they want to rebuild. They want to destroy America. They want a whole Western world collapse. How are we going to allow that? Anyone who support them is treason, okay? Any congressman who support them is treason. And this guy should not be in Michigan, okay? So that's why I play that and make sure people know about him. And now I'm going to go to it's awful. He should export. He should deport him. Okay. I'm going to start President Trump's UN speech. Where is it? Too many buttons. Always forgot. Wait. Yeah, and I hope everyone can continue to love our country. That's what I do. Try to debunk the fake news media, and the fake news media are so evil. There's no way we can side with them. Okay. Okay, let's enjoy this. People who have suffered under the hand of oppression and starving from imperial power. From imperial power. They suffer not from imperial power. They suffer from their own country. That's why they come to America. Idiot. So stupid. Oh, I have to put this comment so I don't have to turn my head. They suffer from their country, their own country. The corruption. The country's corruption. And then they come to America and then blame us. Ridiculous, stupid. Okay, and your comment is stupid too. Small x. You should change the name to small x, s, not x. Okay, I'm not a puppet. Okay, I can. I got camera block my view. History class. You take your history class, not me. You stupid fuck. You don't even have guts to show your name. You just have dumb name, stupid name, small x, small dick. Okay? Oh. Keijo still here? Keijo still here? Free Palestine. October 7, they kill a lot of innocent. What's free Palestine? You want to free Hamas? Those people need to read the history, okay? I don't know where they got their history from, okay? They got it from those stupid teacher. Like those one of the Berkeley professor. Stupid, okay? Okay, let's start. So I can have my hand focus on typing.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble. Hello, Madam First Lady. Thank you very much for being here. And Madam President, Mr. Secretary General, First Lady of the United States, distinguished delegates, ambassadors, and world leaders. 6 years have passed since I last stood in this grand hall and addressed a world that was prosperous and at peace in my first term. Since that day, the guns of war have shattered the peace I forged on 2 continents. An era of calm and stability gave way to one of the great crises of our time. And here in the United States, 4 years of weakness, lawlessness, and radicalism under the last administration delivered our nation into a repeated set of disasters. 1 year ago, our country was in deep trouble, but today, just 8 months into my administration, we are the hottest country anywhere in the world, and there is no other country even close. America is blessed with the strongest economy, the strongest borders, the strongest military, the strongest friendships, and the strongest spirit of any nation on the face of the earth. This is indeed the golden age of America. We are rapidly reversing the economic calamity we inherited from the previous administration, including ruinous price increases and record-setting inflation like we've never had before. Under my leadership, energy costs are down, gasoline prices are down, grocery prices are down, mortgage rates are down, and inflation has been defeated. The only thing that's up is the stock market, which just hit a record high. In fact, it hit a record high 48 times in the last short period of time. Growth is surging, manufacturing is booming. The stock market, as I said, is doing better than it's ever done. And all of you in this room benefit by that, almost everybody. And importantly, workers' wages are rising at the fastest pace in more than 60 years. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? In 4 years of President Biden, we had less than $1 trillion of new investment into the United States. In just 8 months since I took office, we have secured commitments and money already paid for $17 trillion. Think of it, 4 years, less than $1 trillion, 8 months, much more than $17 trillion is being invested in the United States, and it's now pouring in from all parts of the world. We've implemented the largest tax cuts in American history and the largest regulation cuts in American history, making this once and again the best country on earth to do business. And many of the people in this room are investing in America, and it's turned out to be an awfully good investment during this 8-month period. In my first term, I built the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the best economy ever, history of the world. And I'm doing the same thing again, but this time it's actually much bigger and even better. The numbers far surpass my record-setting first term. On our southern border, we have successfully repelled a colossal invasion. And for the last 4 months, and that's 4 months in a row, the number of illegal aliens admitted and entering our country has been 0. Hard to believe, because if you look back just a year ago, it was millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, from prisons, from mental institutions, drug dealers. All over the world they came. They just poured into our country with the ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. Our message is very simple. If you come illegally into the United States, you're going to jail, or you're going back to where you came from, or perhaps even further than that. You know what that means. I want to thank the country of El Salvador for the successful and professional job they've done in receiving and jailing so many criminals that entered our country. And it was under the previous administration that the number became record-setting, and they're all being taken out. We have no choice. And other countries have no choice, because other countries are in the exact same situation with immigration. It's destroying your country, and you have to do something about it. On the world stage, America is respected again like it has never been respected before. You think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or 1 year ago, we were a laughingstock all over the world. At the NATO summit in June, virtually all NATO members formally committed to increase defense spending at my request from 2% to 5% of GDP, making our alliance far stronger and more powerful than it was ever before. In May, I traveled to the Middle East to visit my friends and rebuild our partnerships in the Gulf and those valued relationships with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE and other countries are now, I believe, closer than ever before. My administration has negotiated one historic trade deal after another, including with the United Kingdom, the European Union, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and many, many others. Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. And I did it in just 7 months. It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. I'm very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood.
This is so awful, so dangerous. You know how escalator, when they move, if you don't pay attention, when it suddenly stop, you really can fall. If you don't have you didn't hold on, you may fall backward. So it's very dangerous situation. And without for myself, luckily, President Trump and the First Lady, nothing happened to them. Yeah? I think, should I say it? They did it intentionally. See? Are they doing it? Are they doing it intentionally, purposely? So how can they not check all those equipments, everything? Those people who type 8647 or this guy, okay, you're going to be in the TDS list, okay? And then because you just type 4 numbers, so I'm going to give you a timeout because you are a piece of shit, useless. Okay? So you just TDS watch list, okay? Because you're useless piece of shit. So you don't get to type. Okay? Let me continue.
And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with the mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. We saved millions and millions of lives with the 7 wars. And we have others that we're working on, and you know that. Many years ago, a very successful real estate developer in New York, known as Donald J. Trump, I bid on the renovation and rebuilding of this very United Nations complex. I remember it so well. I said at the time that I would do it for $500 million, rebuilding everything. It would be beautiful. I used to talk about, I'm going to give you marble floors. They're going to give you terrazzo. I'm going to give you the best of everything. You're going to have mahogany walls. They're going to give you plastic. But they decided to go in another direction, which was much more expensive at the time, and which actually produced a far inferior product. And I realized that they did not know what they were doing when it came to construction, and that their building concepts were so wrong, and the product that they were proposing to build was so bad and so costly. It was going to cost them a fortune. And I said, and wait till you see the overruns. Well, I turned out to be right. They had massive cost overruns and spent between $2 and $4 billion on the building and did not even get the marble floors that I promised them. You walk on terrazzo. Do you notice that? As far as I'm concerned, frankly, looking at the building and getting stuck on the escalator, they still haven't finished the job. They still haven't finished. That was years ago. The project was so corrupt that Congress actually asked me to testify before them on the tremendous waste of money, because it turned out that they had no idea what it was, but they knew it was anywhere between 2 and
4 device, yes. I knew it. See? I knew someone wouldn't know what he is talking about. The big 2005 project. Okay? So that's why I prepared. Okay. So I have the clip, okay, for everyone. President Trump's testimony, congressional testimony in 2005. Okay? Let me see. Okay, let's see. Okay, should be good.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the
Hundreds of millions and billions into that facility, into that organization, without accountability and transparency, and so it can be effective. Thank you, Senator Colburn, Senator Sessions, Senator Davis.
Thank you.
You're coming out? Okay, 1 second.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the...
Hundreds of millions and billions into that facility, into that organization, without accountability and transparency.
Oh man, I hate it. Let me see. Okay. Is it too many? I have a old computer. Oh, okay, I see why. Oh man, I make a mistake. Okay. Now let me see.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Expense. I built a
Appreciate your willingness to listen to the other viewpoints.
more expensive than that, and you know what the something. So that's buildings. Is it residential luxury of 871?
Now we would like to hear from you, Mr. Trump. We, first of all, appreciate that you would take time out of your schedule to come down here. I think it's an important area. We recognize your success in the very areas that we're talking about and look forward to hearing what you have to say about, number one, your opinions, but also what you've heard here today.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. It's a great honor to have been invited, and if I can lend a hand, I would certainly love to do so. I have to start by saying I'm a big fan, a very big fan of the United Nations and all it stands for. I can't speak as to what's been happening over the last number of years because it certainly hasn't been good. But the concept of the United Nations and the fact that the United Nations is in New York is very important to me and very important to the world as far as I am concerned. So I am a big fan, such a fan, in fact, that at great expense I built a building across the street. It's the tallest apartment house in the world. It's been a tremendously successful building, sold out, and I'm very proud of it. And if the United Nations weren't there, perhaps I wouldn't have built it in that location. So it means quite a bit to me. My involvement with the United Nations began with a letter which I will give to the committee from the ambassador to the United Nations from Sweden. And it's a long letter and a very beautifully written letter. And essentially, he read an article about the success of Trump World Tower, which is the building that I can show you right here. Which is, as you can see, very, very substantially taller than the United Nations, bigger than the United Nations. And he read an article in the New York Times saying that the building cost approximately $300 million to build. So he wrote me a letter and ultimately called me and said, is it possible that that building cost $300 million? Because it just seems so much bigger and so much better and so much more expensive and so much more luxurious. And how could you have done that for $300 million when at that time, Senator, they were talking about $1.5 billion to renovate the United Nations, and this was around December of 2000. And I said, well, there's only two reasons, either gross incompetence or something far worse than that. And you know what the something is, and that's corruption. Because there's absolutely no way that that building could have cost $1.5 billion to build. And I did a chart, and I looked at other buildings, and I heard the numbers today, and I'm very impressed with Mr. Burnham, but Mr. Burnham, it's not his business. Mr. Burnham is in a different business. And the man he hired, who has done some work, I guess, has just been on the payroll for 2 days. So perhaps he'll be a great genius, and he'll bring down the cost to what it should be, which I think is about $700 million tops, and that's complete. But I did a little chart, and I looked at buildings that were comparable that I built, and I looked at fees also, architectural fees. The architectural fee for this building, and you have to understand a residential luxury building, is far more complex than an open floor office building to build. It's much more. You have many more bathrooms, you have many more kitchens, you have many more rooms. It's more complex. Office building is essentially open space with subdividers. So I looked at it and I added up some of my costs, and for Trump World Tower across the street, built not long ago, I spent approximately $258 a foot. It's tallest residential building in the world. $258.32 a foot. I have 871,000 feet. It costs $225 million to build. Now, anybody that says that a building of renovation is more expensive than building a new building doesn't know the business, because you have a frame built, you have your foundations built, you have in many cases elevators that can be reutilized in their entirety but fixed. You have many, many components that can be used, and it only costs a fool more money. I did the Grand Hyatt Hotel from the old Commodore Hotel. I did Trump International Hotel and Tower from the old Gulf and Western building at 1 Central Park West, if you remember. I did the Trump Park Avenue building from the Delmonico Hotel. I love doing renovation because it costs you half. It doesn't cost you more, it costs you less, if you know what you're doing. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, it can be fraught with cost overruns, et cetera, et cetera. So I looked at a couple of other buildings. 40 Wall Street is a building which is unfortunately and sadly now the tallest building in downtown Manhattan, sadly because the World Trade Center came down. It replaced 40 Wall Street. It was actually the tallest building in the world for a period of 1 year, and then superseded by the Chrysler Building and then the Empire State Building. But downtown Manhattan, it was superseded by the World Trade Center. So 40 Wall Street's approximately 72 stories tall. It was a complete gut renovation, identical to what you're doing. We put all brand new windows, brand new everything in it. And I have a renovation cost of, let's say, $100 a foot if you add everything. And that would mean that your job would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of half the number that you're talking about, and even less. The way I look at it, the number that they're talking about, and I agree with Senator Sessions, is close to $600 or $700 a foot. They're not adding garages. And by the way, garages are very inexpensive to renovate, so that brings the number way down. They're not adding a lot of things that have to be added. When I went to see the administration and when I went to see Kofi Annan, I was actually quite excited because I thought that I could save this country, this world, everybody, including myself, a lot of money just by sitting down and having a meeting. Unfortunately, as our great senator to my right said, there was just no response. They didn't really care. It got a lot of press. I walked into the room and I sat down. I felt like a head of state. I was sitting with Kofi Annan, and a door opened, and there were literally hundreds of reporters taking my picture. I said, "What are we doing?" "I just want to tell you, I can build a building a lot cheaper." And that was the end of it. I wrote letters, and you have copies of the letters. I wrote letters after the meeting. I thought the meeting went amazingly well. I was expecting a call the following day from, whether it's Kofi Annan or his people. At that time, it was a man named Connors. I met with Mr. Connors. Mr. Connors didn't know the first thing about what he was doing. He didn't know whether or not the curtain wall was going to be new, old, and didn't even know what a curtain wall was. I said, "What are you going to be doing with the curtain wall?" He said, "What is a curtain wall?" Now, he was in charge of the project. The curtain wall is the skin of the building. I said, "Will it be new or old?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Are you using New York steam or are you using a new boiler system?" He said, "I don't know what New York steam is." It's a very common form of heating in the building. He had no clue. And the price at that time was $1.5 billion. I mean, I don't know why it came down because the world has gone up, but it came down. That was in the year approximately 2000 to 2001. So he didn't have a clue. I don't know if he's still there. Perhaps he is. The one thing I found him very, very good at is that he didn't want to lose control of this project. He was a man that absolutely wanted to keep control of the project, but he didn't have even the slightest inkling of what it was all about, knew nothing about it. He then told me that he may move people out, he may not move people out, he didn't know, he thought he might, he wasn't sure, he just didn't know. So I went through a whole list of questions for him, and then I realized that the United Nations is in serious trouble because the $1.5 billion that they were talking about, there was no way it was going to happen for that. And I say today that the $1.2 billion, which they brought down, even though it's basically the same work, And even though things have gotten more expensive, so I don't know why they brought it down, because I don't think they brought it down for any particular reason. But the $1.2 billion, in my opinion, I'll be sitting here in 3 years, and I'll be saying, and I'm going to predict that it'll cost over $3 billion, because they just don't know. I was very impressed with Mr. Burnham, but again, you have to deal in New York City construction to see what tough people are all about, to see what tough contractors are all about. And if you haven't done it, you're going to go to school, and they're just going to take you to lunch, and you're just not going to even know what happened. So this project at $1.2 billion will cost, in my opinion, $3 billion. In my own opinion, however, in my real opinion, it should cost approximately $700 million. I've been listening to a couple of different things. Number one, swing space. I don't think you need swing space. First of all, what landlord in New York is going to rent space for a year and a half or 2 years? Who's going to do that? You're going to give up a building for a year and a half or 2 years and say, oh, good, you just go in, mess up my building for a short term, and then move out. Nobody's going to do that unless they're totally desperate. And you don't have to be desperate in New York. It's the hottest real estate market in the world today, probably. And I'm saying, where are they going to find this space to start off with? It's going to be a disaster. And if you know New York City landlords, and some of you do, there is no worse human being on earth, okay? They are going to have more fun with these folks from the United Nations when it comes to signing that lease. And the United Nations, their heads will be spinning. Assuming there's honesty, their heads will be spinning. So I don't know where they're going to get the space. They're going to have to pay so much. And no landlord's going to fix the space. I mean, you know, I'm listening to these people that are very naive, and I respect them, but they're very naive in this world. Now, I might be naive in their world, but in this world, they're naive. To think that they're going to go into a building and rent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of feet of space, if they can find such a building, and I don't know of any building like that, and then they're not going to have to pay for the renovation of that space and fixing up the space for a couple of years. Now, people do that, but they sign 25 and 30-year leases. I don't mind going into an office building and fixing up space, but I sign a 30-year lease or a 20-year lease or at least a 15-year lease. These people are going to sign a 1 or a 2-year lease. It's ridiculous. So the concept of swing space, in my opinion, doesn't work from an economic, and the number of $98 million is a joke, because that number will be hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in just the renovation cost alone. One of the things that I had mentioned to Kofi Annan and the whole group when I was at the meeting was that there is no reason to move anybody out. In New York City, we have a lot of asbestos buildings, and there's a whole debate about asbestos. I mean, a lot of people could say that if the World Trade Center had asbestos, it wouldn't have burned down, it wouldn't have melted, okay? A lot of people think asbestos, a lot of people in my industry think asbestos is the greatest fireproofing material ever made. And I can tell you that I've seen tests of asbestos versus the new material that's being used, and it's not even it's like a heavyweight champion against a lightweight from high school. But in your great wisdom, you folks have said asbestos is a horrible material, so it has to be removed. Space is constantly being renovated. Asbestos is constantly being gotten rid of with tenants in possession. You sit there, they wrap it, they conceal it, they do it. They have many professional firms. They move the asbestos. Estee Lauder's company, they did it while they were in possession. I could name 100 tenants where it's been done while they sit in their offices, literally working. Sometimes it's done over weekends. Sometimes it's done at a little different time. They take sections of offices and they do it, and the people move from that section to another section, and they're inconvenienced for a day and a half, and then they rebuild the office. So the concept of moving to swing space, dealing with New York City landlords, is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, you can do the entire building. You can put new skin on the building. You can put see the piping, you don't have that much piping because the bathrooms are all centralized. You know, not every office has a bathroom. It's not like an apartment house. But you can do this entire building like I did the Grand Hyatt Hotel. I took the old Commodore Hotel and I made it into the Grand Hyatt Hotel on 42nd Street and Park Avenue. It was a great success. I did it with many buildings. I've done this with many buildings. But it's not necessary to have everybody leave the building in order to rebuild a building. And you don't have to necessarily even do it at one floor at a time. You can either fix the skin or put a new skin on the building. And what you do is you do the roof first and you seal it and you get a 30-year guarantee. You then bring, and what I do best in life is build. Even better than The Apprentice, I must say. The thing I do best is build. But you put a new roof, as I did with the Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt. You put a brand new 20 or 30-year roof that's a guaranteed roof. And now your roof is done, like an umbrella. And then you bring the skin down, and as you're bringing the skin down, you're taking the old skin off. So by the time, and you literally have very little gap, very little space, but you're bringing the new skin down, and it's just, think of an umbrella. You're bringing the brand, and you should put new skin. This skin has been up there for many 60 years. It's over. Now, you can copy the skin identically. You can copy the color of the glass identically. You can bring in all the modern technology, including triple pane or double pane glass in terms of heat and cooling and everything else. But you bring the skin down, and as it's, you have scaffold, and as it's coming down, the old skin is coming off. Everything's sealed up beautifully. In the meantime, inside, your pipes are going up, your asbestos is coming out, your electric is being redone. You have companies that do nothing but redo electric. Now, these are different companies. You have companies that do new electric, they wouldn't know how to redo electric. Then you have companies that redo electric, they don't know how to do new electric. I mean, it's just a specialty. But you have special people that redo apartments, which are being renovated all the time with people in possession, that redo all sorts of buildings. I just built a building on Park Avenue and 59th Street. I had tenants in possession when I did it. I mean, I built a major building, essentially brand new, the old Delmonico Hotel, and I had people living in the building when I did a major $100 million job. It's a $200 million building. So the concept of moving to another location and getting everybody out of this building is absolutely asinine and will cost you so much money you're not even going to believe it. And then you're going to have to move in. Many other things. When I did the Wollman Rink, the city of New York was boggled down for a period of 7 years. They had spent $21 million. It was a tremendous embarrassment to the Koch administration. And I said, I'd like to take over the project. And they said, the New York Times came out with an editorial, the New York Post came out with a great editorial, and they said, let Trump do it. And finally, the city had let me do it. And I rebuilt, and believe me, I used nothing that was there before. Everything had to be gutted out because it was totally incompetently done. 7 years, $21 million. I redid it, and the senator remembers this very well, I guess. I redid it in 3 months for $1.8 million, and it opened, and I still run it today, and that was quite a while ago. This is no different, and in fact, in a certain way, this is even easier. All week long, you have tenants in New York renovating their space. You have buildings being renovated with what we call tenants in possession. I mean, they're tenants in possession. They're in possession of the space. Now, I listened to one thing, and I've seen one thing and one number that sticks out more than all of the rest. Because whether or not somebody doesn't know what New York steam is or what boilers are and whether or not they have boiler rooms, which the people at the United Nations didn't do. But the number of $44 million for an architect is one of the great numbers in the history. In fact, I think this man is a genius, whoever he may be, wherever he may be in Italy. I think he is a great genius. I would like to meet him. He is without question the richest architect in the world. And I listened as one person said, I think they only got 500,000. Another person said, I think they got $1 million, and then changed their mind, and it was 7.8 million. And then I listened to Senator Sessions, who actually did his homework, said they got paid $27 million because you were able to check the books. So they got paid $27 million. They haven't done anything. They don't even have plans. Nobody even knows what they're building, and they got paid $27 million. Now, I have respect for a lot of people, and I have great respect for architects, but I'm going to give you an example. The tallest residential building in the world, my architect got paid approximately $1.5 million. This architect got $44 million. A building at 40 Wall Street, my architect got paid, believe me, peanuts, I think less than $1.5 million. In Chicago, where I'm building a building of 92 stories at the old Sun-Times site, 2.7 million square feet, which is more than the United Nations. If you add up all of the projects that they're talking about, it's larger, substantially larger. I'm spending $600 million, and they're saying they're going to spend $1.2 billion. So they're spending
much more. And this is a 92-story building with brand new structure, brand new foundations. I'm building all the roads. Mayor Daley made me build roads around the building. I had no choice. Otherwise, if you know Mayor Daley, you're not going to build the building. And he's a great mayor, but he made me do that. So all of this is $600 million, and they're spending 1.2. Now, there's no way they're spending $1.2 billion, in my opinion, and based on what I've heard. When they've spent $27 million and terminated the architect, there's big trouble. Because I don't think they have a new architect. So if they don't have a new architect, who's going to do the plans? And who's going to do the bidding? Because in order to do a job, you have to have a complete set of plans and specs. If you don't have a complete, finished, over set of plans and specs, you have nothing to bid on. There's no way you can bid. The worst thing you can do, and you said you were in the home building business for a while, the worst thing you can do, as you know, is start a job without complete plans and specs, because the subcontractors will eat your lunch, right? So it's one of those things. So they don't even have an architect. They spent $27 million and they don't have an architect. Now, I have asked on numerous occasions to go in, and I would help them. I would love to help them. I don't want any money. I want nothing. I've made a lot of money. I don't care. I want nothing. There are lots of different, somebody said, what would be your dream on this site? Well, my dream is a dream that won't happen, but it's a dream that I might tell you. It's a dream to take the United Nations, the senator over here is probably going to go crazy, move it to the World Trade Center as a brand new United Nations, sell the United Nations site, which is one of the greatest sites in the world, for much more money than the whole thing would cost, and you end up building a free United Nations at the World Trade Center, where I don't think anybody's going to want to stay anyway. I think it's going to be a very, very hard rent-up at the World Trade Center. But let's assume that's not going to happen. Not a bad idea, though.
He's got no problem with it.
Not too bad. He's got no problem. And most people don't have it.
Kofi Annan on the top floor.
Okay, I won't get into it. I didn't say that. But the fact is that the United Nations building, with all of its buildings, with its parking, should be completed, and I mean completed, at a cost of $700 million. And it's my opinion that it will not be completed for less than $3 to $3.5 billion. They don't know what they're getting into. And please remember this, as somebody that's probably built as much as anybody my age anywhere, I don't know of anybody that's built more, if you don't have a complete set of plans and specifications, there is no way you can build. And from what I understand, they don't even have an architect. One final point. They give you some nice firms, Turner and this one and Theobald and Gardner and Theobald and all. The fact is that I can take those same firms and tell them the way I want it built, and those same firms will come up with prices that are half the price that they're coming up with. They're being told what to do by people that don't know what they're doing. So if I take Turner Construction, which is fine, or if I take a couple of others, and by the way, when I say fine, fine, but Rolls-Royce, they spend money. But if I take a couple of those firms, and if I show them the right way to do it, and if I lead them down the right way, which is really what a good developer does, that number that they're coming up with will be cut in half. So that's it. Congratulations. You've got yourself a mess on your hands. And it's only going to get worse.
Mr. Trump, thank you very much. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Your renovation cost per square foot on an average building, and let's say with asbestos decontamination, abatement, what is it, $100, $150?
I think any professional, I was speaking to somebody very professional, Richard Lefrak, before. He said he just gave out an architectural contract on a 1-million-foot building for $1.5 million, okay? Not $44 million, 1.5. So it's the same size, $1.5 million. I would say that if you, because of the United Nations in terms of security and some enhanced needs, okay, let's assume it's beyond even your normal high-grade office building, which it's really not. Essentially, it's an office building. But let's add something for security. I would think you should easily do it for $250 a foot, easily. And that means complete. That's not adding up all of this other stuff, which, by the way, was not given to you. You have many things listed on that board that weren't given to you.
Right, right. And when you say $250 a square foot, that's in today's dollars. So if we wait 2 years, number one, there's going to be some price inflation in that, and
They don't even have an architect, so how can they start sooner than that? First of all, to do a good set of plans and specs is going to take you a good year. So if you don't have an architect even hired yet because the last one ripped you off or did whatever he did, the guy is unbelievable. I mean, this guy, I want to meet him. I can learn from that guy. But so you have a man that got paid $27 million that you're not going to use. So now let's assume you have to start all over because no architect's going to take over somebody's plans in the middle of it. You just don't want to do that, okay? And the other thing is, how do you hire an architect from Italy? I love Italy. I love Italy. I love the Italians. How do you hire an Italian architect? What happens? Every time he wants to check the building, he gets on a plane and flies for 8.5 hours? Then he goes to the New York City building department and he doesn't even speak English? I mean, it's ridiculous. So what they have is they really have a problem. And I don't see how they can even start. Now, if you put a developer like myself or like any one of 5 other people, and I can only think of 5, in charge of a job like that, you could have that job started immediately. You could have the asbestos removed with tenants in possession. You could have the entire building rebuilt in less than 2 years. You know, Kofi Annan asked me one question. At the time, and I'm only increasing it because of the fact that when I met him, it was 4 years ago, but at the time I said I could do it, I think, for $400 million versus their $1.5 billion. Slightly different number, right? He said, what would be the difference in the building? I said, the difference would be my building would be better, be much newer, much richer. I was putting in all brand new marble floors on the ground. I like marble. I was putting in all brand new marble floors. They have all broken up terrazzo floors. Under their plan, they were leaving these all broken floors. They're broken, old, and terrazzo is not exactly a great material. It's garbage. But I was putting in all brand new marble. I was putting in an all new curtain wall. They were going to fix their curtain wall. If you fix that curtain wall, it's a disaster. You have to put in a brand new curtain wall. You'll get another 50 years. If you fix it, it's not the answer. It's going to leak. It's going to be a problem. So he asked me the question, and I said, the answer is it's going to be better. It will be brand new in its entirety. You won't have to move anybody out. You won't have to go and build. At that time, they were talking about, as you remember, building a new building to house the people, and they were going to put the building, and they were actually thinking about then ripping the building down. Okay, I said, that's a real beauty. But they don't know what they're doing, so here I am.
So if the United Nations decides to go ahead on the track that they're going now and go out for a $1.2 billion contract, you going to go get that business?
No. I'm not going to get it. First of all, they don't know what they want. They don't know what they have. They have no idea what they're doing. It's a problem where you can't bid on a job like that, and I wouldn't bid on it anyway. I offered my services free. I wanted to save close to $1 billion, actually $1.1 billion at the time. I wanted to save $1 billion for the United Nations, for the world, in a sense. I wanted to do it. I like doing it. I like doing the Woolman skating rink. I mean, this is a bigger version of the Woolman skating rink. That's all it is to me. And I said, I don't want a fee. I don't want anything. They didn't like the idea. Now, the senator would have his own reasons. He's stronger on it than me. But they didn't want the idea. Are you surprised, Senator, about that?
No, I think that'd be a good location, and I spoke in jest, and I apologize for the jest, but I think the downtown Manhattan would be a good site, or where it presently is, and I think you could do an outstanding job. Anybody could, as long as you have accountability and you have real transparency and you have real bids going on and real people managing these projects.
I think that's not going to happen. I think it's a very interesting idea, but I think it's not going to happen. I love the idea of the downtown switch, sell the land, you'll make such a fortune on the land, et cetera, et cetera. It's not going to happen from a practical standpoint. It should happen, but it's not going to happen. But just in terms of the renovation itself, you have to get the right architect. I mean, there are architects and there are architects. You have to get the right architect, and you have to know who those architects are. I mean, I can only think of 5 architects that would do a great job on this building. You have to know who the architects are. You have to get your plan started. You have to do it as a renovation, and the renovation should be done quickly, effectively. And in my opinion, by the end of 2007, this whole job should be complete. Complete. It can be started immediately because of the fact that you're doing it the way I'm saying. Within 3 to 4 months of planning, you can start your contracts without extras. In other words, you can start what I call hard contracts, contracts without fluff and without extras. I think the entire job can be done by the end of 2007. I promise you, Senator, they won't even have the people moved out by 2007.
One little follow-up. They gave us $1.2 billion, $482 million going to labor and materials, and $471 million set up for contingency and professional fees.
Nobody's ever heard of such a number.
In your experience, when you plan a project, what do you figure for a contingency fee? The whole thing, the cost overrun, liability, the whole work. What do you figure?
Well, their contingency number was what, 400 and some odd million dollars?
Yeah, it's $471 million.
Craziest number I've ever heard. My building in Chicago is $600 million. I believe we have a $30 million contingency, and of the $30 million, if I use any more than 3 or 4, I'm going to be very angry at my people. That's a 92-story building. I have a $30 million contingency, and I don't expect to use it. I set aside $30 million. I expect that if I use more than $3 million, I'm going to be a very unhappy camper. To have a $400 and some odd million contingency is totally unheard of.
Thank you. Senator Dayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, you build good buildings, Mr. Trump.
Thank you.
I go in them. I go to Napoleon's, so I
Very good.
go in them. And when can you start?
Well, I'd like to do, you know, it was amazing. The Swedish ambassador just piqued my attention, and he should get a lot of the credit for this. I mean, his letter is here. It's such a beautifully written letter, and it's written by a man of, I don't even know him. It's written by a man of great common sense.
And you met with the Secretary General 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
So, and I see here this United Nations General Assembly capital plan I referred to before is dated June of 2000. Right. So, I mean, this project now in 5 years.
This project could have been done
nowhere.
Right. I could have built it twice.
Yeah.
I could have built it twice.
How does the United Nations, or how does, you know, whoever it is, the lender, if we're going to be the lender, how do you regain control of the project? You start with a developer?
Well, actually, Mr. Burnham said, I'd like to call you tomorrow, and I thought that was terrific. Honestly, I thought that was terrific. This is what I do. This is what I do the best. And I'm in New York, and as the Senator said, Senator Sessions, New York is a tough place to do business. And, you know, I've had great success, and sometimes you take your lumps. You have to know the contractors. I know every contractor in New York. I know the ones that are going to, I'm not going to say the word, there's too many wonderful women in the room, but I know the contracts that are going to, quote, take advantage of you. I know the contracts that are slow, contractors. I know the contractors that are fabulous, that don't ask for extras. I know all of them. I know the good ones and the bad ones. I told a friend the other day who was doing his apartment, he told me the contractor. I said, don't use him. This was about a year ago. He got killed by this guy. He got killed. I said, use somebody else. He came to me the other day and said, I should have taken your advice. The United Nations people don't know. We have major slime in New York. And much of that is in the form of contractors. Isn't that a sad thing to say? And every one of them, I guarantee you, will find their way to the United Nations.
Well, when would you like to take over rebuilding the
I'll
Visitor
help you
Center
out.
and a few other projects?
That's true.
Well,
You've had your own difficulties with
We have,
that. I know that.
but it shows what the difference between someone who knows what he's doing and people who don't. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Senator Sessions.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very, very much for caring enough about the American taxpayers' money to have this hearing, and I think you've got 40-something planned. He is a fresh breath of fresh air for this Senate, and it ought to embarrass all of us because all of us have oversight committees that are not doing a very good job. And if we could save $1 million, Mr. Trump, that's $1 million that can be used for good causes, and I think there's potential to save a lot more than that. You have given us a tutorial on reconstruction and renovation and construction and big projects. I hope people were listening, and I think the main point is you've got to know what you're doing in this city in this kind of construction project, or you can be taken to the cleaners. Your contributions are going to help us save money, and I believe help us have a better UN building. And that's, you wouldn't have said that if you didn't believe in the institution and want it to be better and want it to have the best building it can and the best balance sheet it can. So I just want to thank you for it. And we'll note that you said it could be completed by 2007. The plans are at this date to begin moving people out by June 2007. And so once again, we've got longer time frames and more cost. Again, I want to thank you for your courage, your willingness to speak out on an issue that a lot of people would have avoided, but you brought your expertise to bear and I believe will help the UN do a better job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Great honor.
Mr. Trump, if someone in your organization paid twice the amount for a project it cost, in 2 words or less, what would you say?
You're fired.
Mr. Chairman, we're dismissed.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Season finale.
Tomorrow, I'm Jim Smith. I work
Right,
for the
right.
UN.
Will you do that, please?
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll make sure I talk to you.
Everybody loved him back then until he won for president. And even the Democrats, back then the Democrats is not that bad. It's pretty reasonable. Not like today's left, radical left. That's why President Trump called them radical left. Yeah. And let's continue. More Trump speech on UN is appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the super chat. Let's continue.
$4 billion as opposed to $500 million with a guarantee. But they had no idea, and I said it cost much more than $5 billion. Unfortunately, many things in the United Nations are happening just like that, but on an even much bigger scale, much bigger. Very sad to see. Whether the UN can manage to play a productive role, I've come here today to offer the hand of American leadership and friendship to any nation in this assembly that is willing to join us in forging a safer, more prosperous world. And it's a world that we'll be much happier with. A dramatically better future is within our reach. But to get there, we must reject the failed approaches of the past and work together to confront some of the greatest threats in history. There is no more serious danger to our planet today than the most powerful and destructive weapons ever devised by man, of which the United States, as you know, has many. Just as I did in my first term, I've made containing these threats a top priority, starting with the nation of Iran. My position is very simple. The world's #1 sponsor of terror can never be allowed to possess the most dangerous weapon. That's why, shortly after taking office, I sent the so-called Supreme Leader a letter making a generous offer. I extended a pledge of full cooperation in exchange for a suspension of Iran's nuclear program. The regime's answer was to continue their constant threats to their neighbors and U.S. interests throughout the region, and some great countries that are right nearby. Today, many of Iran's former military commanders, in fact, I can say almost all of them, are no longer with us. They're dead. And 3 months ago, in Operation Midnight Hammer, 7 American B-2 bombers dropped the 14 30,000-pound each bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally obliterating everything. No other country on earth could have done what we did. No other country has the equipment to do what we did. We have the greatest weapons on earth. We hate to use them. But we did something that for 22 years people wanted to do. With Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity demolished, I immediately brokered an end to the 12-day war, as it's called, between Israel and Iran, with both sides agreeing to fight no longer. As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now. Thank you. Thank you. As we have got to come together, and we will come together, got to get it done. We have to stop the war in Gaza immediately. We have to stop it. We have to get it done. We have to negotiate, immediately have to negotiate peace. We got to get the hostages back. We want all 20 back. We don't want 2 and 4. As you know, I got, along with Steve Witkoff and others that helped us, Marco Rubio, we got most of them back. We were involved in all of them. But I always said the last 20 are going to be the hardest, and that's exactly what happened. We have to get them back now. We don't want to get back 2, and then another 2, and then 1, and then 3. Have this process. No, we want them all back, and we want the actually 38 dead bodies back too. Those parents came to me, and they want them back, and they want them back very quickly and very badly, as though they were alive. They want them. They want them every bit as much as if their son or daughter were alive. I've also been working relentlessly, stopping the killing in Ukraine. I thought that would be, of the 7 wars that I stopped, I thought that would be the easiest because of my relationship with President Putin, which had always been a good one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But you know, in war, you never know what's going to happen. There are always lots of surprises, both good and bad. Everyone thought Russia would win this war in 3 days, but it didn't work out that way. It was supposed to be just a quick little skirmish. It's not making Russia look good. It's making them look bad. No matter what happens from here on out, this was something that should have taken a matter of days, certainly less than a week, and they've been fighting for 3.5 years and killing anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 young soldiers, mostly soldiers, on both sides, every single week, from 5,000 to 7,000 dead young people, and some in cities, much smaller numbers, where rockets are shot, where drones are dropped. This war would never have started if I were president. This was a war that should have never happened. It shows you what leadership is, what bad leadership can do to a country. Look what happened to the United States, and look where we are right now in just a short period of time. The only question now is how many more lives will be needlessly lost on both sides. China and India are the primary funders of the ongoing war by continuing to purchase Russian oil. But inexcusably, even NATO countries have not cut off much Russian energy and Russian energy products, which, as you know, I found out about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't happy. Think of it. They're funding the war against themselves. Who the hell ever heard of that one? In the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed, I believe, very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you are gathered here right now, would have to join us in adopting the exact same measures. I mean, you're much closer to this. We have an ocean in between. You're right there. And Europe has to step it up. They can't be doing what they're doing. They're buying oil and gas from Russia while they're fighting Russia. It's embarrassing to them, and it was very embarrassing to them when I found out about it, I can tell you that. They have to immediately cease all energy purchases from Russia. Otherwise, we're all wasting a lot of time. So I'm ready to discuss this. We're going to discuss it today with the European nations, all gathered here. I'm sure they're thrilled to hear me speak about it, but that's the way it is. I like to speak my mind and speak the truth. As we seek to reduce the threat of dangerous weapons today, I'm also calling on every nation to join us in ending the development of biological weapons once and for all. And biological is terrible, and nuclear is even beyond, and we include nuclear in that. We want to have a cessation of the development of nuclear weapons. We know, and I get to view it all the time. Sir, would you like to see? And I look at weapons that are so powerful that we just can't ever use them. If we ever use them, the world literally might come to an end. There would be no United Nations to be talking about. There would be no nothing. Just a few years ago, reckless experiments overseas gave us a devastating global pandemic. Yet despite that worldwide catastrophe, many countries are continuing extremely risky research into bioweapons and man-made pathogens. This is unbelievably dangerous. To prevent potential disasters, I'm announcing today that my administration will lead an international effort to enforce biological weapons convention, which is going to be meeting with the top leaders of the world by pioneering an AI verification system that everyone can trust. Hopefully the UN can play a constructive role, and it will also be one of the early projects under AI. Let's see how good it is, because a lot of people are saying it could be one of the great things ever, but it also can be dangerous, but it can be put to tremendous use and tremendous good, and this would be an example of that. Not only is the UN not solving the problems it should, too often, it's actually creating new problems for us to solve. The best example is the number one political issue of our time, the crisis of uncontrolled migration. It's uncontrolled. Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. The UN is supporting people that are illegally coming into the United States, and then we have to get them out. The UN also provided food, shelter, transportation, and debit cards to illegal aliens. Can you believe that? On the way to infiltrate our southern border. Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our social safety net. We have reasserted that America belongs to the American people, and I encourage all countries to take their own stand in defense of their citizens as well. You have to do that because I see it. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I can call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed, so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe if something is not done immediately. This cannot be sustained. What makes the world so beautiful is that each country is unique. But to stay this way, every sovereign nation must have the right to control their own borders. You have the right to control your borders, as we do now, and to limit the sheer numbers of migrants entering their countries and paid for by the people of that nation that were there and that built that particular nation at the time. They put their blood, sweat, tears, money into that country, and now they're being ruined. Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before, with different customs, religions, with different everything. Where migrants have violated laws, lodged false asylum claims, or claimed refugee status for illegitimate reasons, they should, in many cases, be immediately sent home. And while we will always have a big heart for places and people that are struggling and truly compassionate, answers will be given. We have to solve the problem, and we have to solve it in their countries, not create new problems in our countries. And we are very helpful to a lot of countries that are just not able to send their people anymore. They used to send them to us in caravans of 25, 30,000 people each. These massive caravans of people pouring into our country, totally unchecked and unvetted. But not anymore. According to the Council of Europe, in 2024, almost 50% of inmates in German prisons were foreign nationals or migrants. In Austria, the number was 53%.
Anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down. Achieved victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message
of the people in prisons were from places that weren't from where they are now. In Greece, the number was 54%, and in Switzerland, beautiful Switzerland, 72% of the people in prisons are from outside of Switzerland. When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime, it's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. Once we started detaining and deporting everyone who crossed the border and removing illegal aliens from the United States, they simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. We're getting a lot of credit, but they're not coming anymore. This was a humanitarian act for all involved, because on the trips up, thousands of people a week were dying. Women were being raped. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Raped, horribly beaten, raped. On the trip up, the journey up, it was a long walk. It was a long, arduous journey, indeed. And it was also a historic victory against human trafficking throughout the region. What we did was a victory, and we saved so many lives of people that wouldn't make the journey. That journey was loaded up with death. Loaded up with death. Dead bodies all along the roads of jungles to get up. They go through jungles, they go through areas so hot you couldn't breathe. They were dying of suffocation, areas so hot that you couldn't breathe. Dead bodies all over. By them not coming, we're saving tremendous numbers of lives. My people have done a fantastic job in doing what they did, and the American public agrees with it. I mean, I was very proud to see this morning I have the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Part of it is because of what we've done on the border. I guess the other part is what we've done in the economy. Joe Biden's policies empowered murderous gangs, human smugglers, child traffickers, drug cartels, and prisoners from all over the world. The previous administration also lost nearly 300,000 children. Think of that. They lost more than 300,000 children, little children, who were trafficked into the United States on the Biden watch, many of whom have been raped, exploited, and abused, and sold. Sold. Nobody talks about that. The fake news doesn't write about it. With many others, young children who are missing or dead. And we found a lot of these children, and we're sending them back, and we've been sending them back to their parents. They said, nobody knows who they are. They said, where do you come from? And they'll give us a country, and we'll find out, and we'll figure it out, and we'll bring them back to their homes. And the mother and father rush to the door, and their tears in their eyes. They can't believe that they're seeing their son or daughter, their little son or daughter again. We've done almost 30,000 of them so far. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about. In America, those days, as you know, are over. The Trump administration is working, and we are continuing to work to track down the villains that are causing this problem, and also, as I said, to get back the 30,000 we've already returned. Now I think we're going to have another. We're going to find a lot. You're not going to find all of them. 300, more than 300,000. They're lost or they're dead. They're lost or they're dead because of the animals that did this. To protect our citizens, I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as and you see this, and you see it happening right before your eyes. Let's put it this way. People don't like taking big loads of drugs in boats anymore. There aren't too many boats that are traveling on the seas by Venezuela. They tend not to want to travel very quickly anymore. And we've virtually stopped drugs coming into our country by sea. We call them the water drugs. They kill hundreds of thousands of people. I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as foreign terrorist organizations, along with two bloodthirsty transnational gangs, probably the worst gangs anywhere in the world, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua is from Venezuela, by the way. Such organizations torture, maim, mutilate, and murder with impunity. They're the enemies of all humanity. And for this reason, we've recently begun using the supreme power of the United States military to destroy Venezuela terrorists and trafficking networks led by Nicolas Maduro. To every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence. That's what we're doing. We have no choice. Can't let it happen. They're destroying. I believe we lost 300,000 people last year to drugs, 300,000. Fentanyl and other drugs. Each boat that we sink carries drugs that would kill more than 25,000 Americans. We will not let that happen. Energy is another area where the United States is now thriving like never before. We're getting rid of the falsely named renewables. By the way, they're a joke. They don't work. They're too expensive. They're not strong enough to fire up the plants that you need to make your country great. The wind doesn't blow. Those big windmills are so pathetic and so bad, so expensive to operate. Then they have to be rebuilt all the time, and they start to rust and rot. Most expensive energy ever conceived, and it's actually energy. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. You lose money, the governments have to subsidize. You can't put them out without massive subsidies. And most of them are built in China, and I give China a lot of credit. They build them, but they have very few wind farms. So why is it that they build them and they send them all over the world, but they barely use them? You know what they use? Coal. They use gas. They use almost anything, but they don't like wind. But they sure as hell like selling the windmills. Europe, on the other hand, has a long way to go, with many countries being on the brink of destruction because of the green energy agenda. And I give a lot of credit to Germany. Germany was being led down a very sick path, both on immigration, by the way, and on energy. They were going green, and they were going bankrupt. And the new leadership came in, and they went back to where they were, with fossil fuel and with nuclear, which is good. It's now safe, and you can do it properly. But they went back to where they were, and they opened up a lot of different plants, energy-producing plants, and they're doing well. I give Germany a lot of credit for that. They've said this is a disaster, what's happening. They were going all green. All green is all bankrupt. That's what it represents. And it's not politically correct. I'll be very badly criticized for saying it, but I'm here to tell the truth. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in New York City. I'm feeling a lot safer. Crime, we're getting crime down. And by the way, speaking of crime, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was the crime capital of America. Now it's after 12 days, it's a totally safe city. Everyone's going out to dinner. They're going out to restaurants. Your wife can walk down the middle of the street with or without you. Nothing's going to happen. My people have done a fantastic job. And yes, I called in the National Guard, and the National Guard took care of business. And they weren't politically correct, but they took care of business. We got 1,700 career criminals out, brought them back to where they came from, the countries where they came from, or put them in jails. Washington, D.C. is now a totally safe city again, and I welcome you to come. In fact, we'll have dinner together at a local restaurant, and we'll be able to walk. We don't have to go by an armor-plated vehicle. We'll walk right over there from the White House. They've given up their powerful edge, a lot of the countries that we're talking about, in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea, I know it so well. Aberdeen was the oil capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea, tremendous oil. And I was with the Prime Minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there. They have tremendous oil left, and more importantly, they have tremendous oil that hasn't even been found yet. And what a tremendous asset for the United Kingdom. And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland. But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler, so now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the President of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint, it was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get back onto that big, beautiful plane and he'd fly back and he'd talk about, again, global warming and the carbon footprint. It's a con job. At extreme cost and expense, Europe reduced its own carbon footprint by 37%. Think of that. Congratulations, Europe. Great job. You cost yourself a lot of jobs, a lot of factories closed, but you reduced the carbon footprint by 37%. However, for all of that sacrifice and much more, it's been totally wiped out and then some by a global increase of 54%. Much of it coming from China and other countries that are thriving around China, which now produces more CO2 than all the other developed nations in the world. So all of these countries are working so hard on the carbon footprint, which is nonsense, by the way. It's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable, and you have it too. But you know, we have a border, strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. And if we had the most clean air, and I think we do, we have very clean air. We have the cleanest air we've had in many, many years. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. And the environmentalists refuse to acknowledge that. Same thing with garbage. In Asia, they dump much of their garbage right into the ocean. And over about a 1 week and 2 week journey, it flows right past Los Angeles. You've seen it. Massive amounts of garbage, almost too much to do anything about. flowing past Los Angeles, past San Francisco, and then somebody would get in trouble because he dropped a cigarette on the beach. The whole thing is crazy. The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune. European electricity bills are now 4 to 5 times more expensive than those in China, and 2 to 3 times higher than the United States. And our bills are coming way down. You probably see that our gasoline prices are way down. You know, we have an expression, drill, baby, drill, and that's what we're doing. We're going to be much lower in a year from now. But they've come way down over the last year. As a result, every air conditioner is like very uncommon to see one in some of these countries because the electric costs are so high. So while the U.S. has approximately 1,300 heat-related deaths annually, that's a lot, Europe loses more than 175,000 people to heat deaths each year because the costs are so expensive you can't turn on an air conditioner. What is that all about? That's not Europe. That's not the Europe that I love and know. All in the name of pretending to stop the global warming hoax. The entire globalist concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict pain on themselves and radically disrupt their entire societies must be rejected completely and totally, and it must be immediate. That's why in America I withdrew from the fake Paris Climate Accord, where, by the way, America was paying so much more than every country. Others weren't paying. China didn't have to pay until 2030. Russia was given an old standard that was easy to meet, a 1990 standard. But for the United States, we're supposed to pay like $1 trillion. And I said, this is another scam. The fact is, the United States has been taken advantage of by the world for many, many years, but not any longer, as you probably noticed. I unleashed massive energy production and signed historic executive orders to hunt for oil, but we don't have to do much hunting because we have the most oil of any nation anywhere, oil and gas in the world. And if you add coal, we have the most of any nation in the world. Clean, I call it clean, beautiful coal. You can do things today with coal that you couldn't have done 10 years ago, 15 years. So I have a little standing order in the White House. Never use the word coal, only use the words clean, beautiful coal. Sounds much better, doesn't it? But we stand ready to provide any country with abundant, affordable energy supplies if you need them, when most of you do. We're proudly exporting energy all over the world. We're now the largest exporter. In the United States, we want trade and robust commerce with all nations, everybody. We want to help nations. We're going to help nations. But it must also be fair and reciprocal. The challenge with trade is much the same with climate. The countries that followed the rules, all their factories have been plundered. It's really sad to watch. They've been broken. They've been broken by countries that broke the rules. That's why the United States is now applying tariffs to other countries, and much as these tariffs were for many years applied to us, uncontrollably applied to us. We've used tariffs as a defense mechanism under the Trump administration, including my first term, where hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs were taken in. And by the way, we had the lowest inflation, and now we have very low inflation. The only thing different is that we have hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into our country. But this is how we will ensure that the system works for everyone and is sustainable into the future. We're also using tariffs to defend our sovereignty and security throughout the world, including against nations that have taken advantage of former U.S. administrations for decades, including the most corrupt, incompetent administration in history, the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Brazil now faces major tariffs in response to its unprecedented efforts to interfere in the rights and freedoms of our American citizens and others, with censorship, repression, weaponization, judicial corruption, and targeting of political critics in the United States. I have a little problem saying this because I must tell you, I was walking in and the leader of Brazil was walking out. We saw him and I saw him, he saw me, and we embraced. And then I'm saying, can you believe I'm going to be saying this in just 2 minutes? But we actually agreed that we would meet next week. We didn't have much time to talk, like about 20 seconds. They were in retrospect, I'm glad I waited because this thing didn't work out too well. But we did talk, we had a good talk, and we agreed to meet next week, if that's of interest. But he seemed like a very nice man, actually. He liked me, I liked him. But if you, and I only do business with people I like. When I don't like them, I don't like them. But we had, at least for about 39 seconds, we had excellent chemistry. It's a good sign. But also in the past, Brazil, can you believe this, unfairly tariffed our nation, but now because of our tariffs, we are hitting them back, and we're hitting them back very hard. As president, I will always defend our national sovereignty and the rights of American citizens. So I'm very sorry to say this, that Brazil is doing poorly and will continue to do poorly. They can only do well when they're working with us. Without us, they will fail, just as others have failed. It's true. Next year, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our glorious independence, a testament to enduring power and American freedom and spirit. We will also be proudly hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and shortly thereafter, the 2028 Olympics, which is going to be very exciting. I hope you all come. I hope that countless people from all over the globe will take part of these will be great celebrations of liberty and human achievement, and that together we all can rejoice in the miracles of history that began in July 4th, 1776, when we founded the light to all nations. And it's something really that an amazing thing came out of that date. It's called the United States of America. In honor of this momentous anniversary, I hope that all countries who find inspiration in our example will join us in renewing our commitment, values, and those values really that we hold so dear. Together, let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity. And let us safeguard our sovereignty and cherish qualities that have made each of our nations so special, incredible, and extraordinary. In closing, I just want to repeat that immigration and the high cost of so-called green renewable energy is destroying a large part of the free world and a large part of our planet. Countries that cherish freedom are fading fast because of their policies on these two subjects. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again. Whether you have come from north or south, east or west, near or far, every leader in this beautiful hall today represents a rich culture, a noble history, and a proud heritage that makes each nation majestic and unique, unlike anything else in human history or any other place on the face of the earth. From London to Lima, from Rome to Athens, from Paris to Seoul, from Cairo to Tokyo and Amsterdam to right here in New York City, we stand on the shoulders of the leaders and legends, generals and giants, heroes and titans who won and built our beloved nations, all of our nations, with their own courage, strength, spirit, and skill. Our ancestors climbed mountains, conquered oceans, crossed deserts, and trekked over wide open plains. They charged into thunderous battles, plunged into grave dangers, and they were soldiers and farmers and workers and warriors and explorers and patriots. They built towns into cities, tribes into kingdoms, ideas into industries, and small islands into mighty empires. You're a part of all of that. They were champions for their people who never gave up, and who never, ever gave in. Their values defined our national identities. Their visions forged our magnificent destiny. Everybody in this room is a part of it in your own way. Each of us inherits the deeds and the myths, the triumphs, the legacies of our own heroes and founders who so bravely showed us the way. Our ancestors gave everything for homelands that they defended with pride, with sweat, with blood, with life, and with death. Now the righteous task of protecting the nations that they built belongs to each and every one of us. So together let us uphold our sacred duty to our people and to our citizens. Let us protect their borders, ensure their safety, preserve their cultures, treasure, and traditions, and fight, fight, fight for their precious dreams and their cherished freedoms. And in friendship and really a beautiful vision, let us all work together to build a bright, beautiful planet, a planet that we all share, a planet of peace and a world that is richer, better, and more beautiful than ever before. That can happen. It will happen. It will happen, and I hope it can happen and start right now, right at this moment. We'll turn it around. We're going to make our countries better, safer, more beautiful. We're going to take care of our people. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. God bless the nations of the world. Thank you very much. Bye.
Love him, huh? Either you hate him or you love him. How long? It's like 1 hour. Okay? He stand there for an hour. I don't think he used the teleprompter. I don't think he used the teleprompter after. Well, about time. Oh, it's 3 a.m. over there. Oh, you're East Coast. Poison resistance. Okay, I see. Okay. Yeah, I love him. I just amazing. Admire. Amazing. And he just do it every day. You can see. Actually, after this, if you go to the White House channel, you can see him talk to each leader individually. And then after that, they will have also a group meeting. Wow, there's lots of meeting. Yeah, talk about the world. You cannot finish in a day. But your English is better than his own. My English is better than President Joe. No way. After this, I use YouTube. I use YouTube to test my accent. Yeah, and then after that I see how YouTube recognize my English, and then accordingly, so I'm improving. Okay. Well, thank you for all your comment, and I'm glad you guys like it. I hope I can do more insight, more inspiring video. Help people in between. Hopefully they just jump in. It's by chance. Thank you. It's by chance. Hoping someone come in and start watching on someone who doesn't touch too much of politics. Instead, they listen to Channel 5 or in Los Angeles, Channel 5 or Channel 2 or Channel 4. Those channels. Then, or CNN. I hope that they will come here. Oh, Fabio, thank you for subscribing. Everyone, thank you for subscribing. I know it's a long video. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Change. Yes, thank you, thank you. Make America great again. Yes, I love you all. Even you are TDS, I love you too. Okay, yeah. But as long as you see, people are keep typing the same message repeatedly, repeat the same message, or they cut and paste and say something useless, and keep voting up, and that's annoying because oh, we are here. We want to communicate. We want to see what other people see. You know, and to buy Tesla, buy Tesla, buy Tesla. You buy I only can afford uh one Tesla start right now. Uh, thank you, Case. Thank you, James. Yeah, do my best and vote no on 50. Support California, please. Any candidate you like, any candidate you like, support. Oh, Chinese food. Yeah, I'm ready for my dumpling. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I see you tomorrow or next time. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.